Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Thursday evening after the NBA trade deadline. Joining us from New York City is Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
Joining us from Dallas, Texas, where they saved money and got some first-round picks, is Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. Might not be plural on the first-round picks. We'll see how that plays out with the top 20 protected one, but it was a great day for the Mavericks yesterday. Saved a ton of money. I know everybody loves that. A little flexibility, some draft capital, and the Bucks and Grizzlies both won, baby. Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to start off with what I think was one of the most fascinating trades of the deadline and certainly of deadline day. And that is, and I know that you might be surprised we're starting with this, but I can't stop thinking about it. Ivica Zubac being traded from the LA Clippers to the Indiana Pacers. Now, why would we start with that trade? Well, here's why. So obviously the Clippers are, I was told not to use the word rebuild, but I don't know what you want to call it, whatever you want.
Retooling for sure.
They were 17-4. James Harden all of a sudden is declared out for personal reasons. You know, he was in Arizona. He's got connections there. I don't know. There's a lot of different reasons guys get personal.
Yeah, personally, he wanted to get traded.
Then they came back to L.A., and James wasn't there. And next thing you know, James Harden was a Cav. Okay. So then, a couple days later, Ivica Zubac out for personal reasons. Had a good reason, though. The birth of his child. Congratulations, you're getting sent to Indiana. That's, by the way, that's a tough hand to be dealt.
It's a tough business.
You've got a relative newborn. He's getting old. He's getting big and old. But Bontemps. But, you know, imagine having to move or leave your wife.
If I was making $20 million a year, K-Bon would deal with me moving. I can tell you that right now. She'd probably tell me to move tomorrow if I was making $20 million. Give me that check.
She would outsource your duties.
Yes, she would. Yeah. She'd go buy herself a Chanel bag and wait till I could come home between games.
Okay. Anyway, so Zubac was out for good reason, but he gets traded on deadline day. And so the Pacers, good piece of business. Zubac has 2 years and about $40 million left on his contract. Borderline All-NBA.
Whoa. Hey, I'll say this. If you'd have just
now
said
you know
All-Star,
why I don't make predictions.
This boosts his future All-Star chances going west to east. All-NBA is a stretch, but hey, he's a solid starting center.
Let's go back to that podcast and talk about how I was on the Clippers that night. Oh, my God.
Listen, if you take that 17-4 stretch, you look brilliant.
Yeah. So this is the replacement for Miles Turner, and I got to say, on that just little piece of business, it's a quality replacement for Miles Turner. Talking about, you know, he doesn't stretch the floor, but we're talking about one of the best defensive bigs in the league, and he's on a good contract. And
showed with James Harden that he can be a really productive pick and roll partner, despite not being, you know, necessarily a vertical threat, but big time screener.
Yeah,
good field. I mean, it's a really, really he's an upgrade over Miles Turner.
I like Zubac a lot. I definitely think he's a better player than Miles Turner. I am curious about his fit with the way the Pacers play because of his lack of shooting. And look, like Zoo isn't molasses going up and down the court, but like the Pacers are flying up and down. It's not necessarily the style I would expect him to play. But look, we know Indiana's not going to go in the tax. He's got a very good deal, making around $20 million in the next couple of years. That's a big part of why they paid this very hefty price to get him, is that he fit within their books. It's why, you know, we kept talking about Daniel Gafford as an option, right? Same reason. Like, he is a player that fits both from a positional need and a contractual standpoint. They weren't going to keep Ben Mathurin, so I get why they moved on from him. But this draft pick situation.
Okay, let's get to that.
Is fascinating. So
when I heard the trade live on TV, I was like, okay, Shams reported just one side of it. And our phones, I'm sure all of our phones blew up. Like, what's the other side of it? What's the other side of it? And so Shams like literally read on TV live on air. He got the info.
Well, and for background, after the Clippers had seemingly made him available, the expectation was it was going to need to be at least 2 firsts to get him out of the Clippers. That was what people in the league were expecting.
Right. So I wasn't really thrilled with the Clippers trading him, as you can imagine. And I said so. And then there's 2 firsts. I was like, okay, well, they got their price. And then I heard the details, and this is what we're building up to. So 2029 unprotected first. Okay. Unprotected firsts are tough. Unprotected firsts for players that are sub all-stars are tougher, but okay, it happens. Second pick. It's protected. Oh, okay, that makes sense. What year? 2026.
Oh, wait,
Boy,
they're bad this year. What's protections?
That's an interesting. I almost thought that Shams misread it because he was literally doing it live off of his phone. He goes 2029. I go okay, and 2026. I was like, no, it can't be. Can't be their pick 2026. I mean, they've got the number 3 pick right now. It can't be their pick. And he goes, top 4 protected. And I was like, oh. And 10 through 30. So basically, the Clippers will get the pick this year if the pick falls between 5 and 9. If it's 1 through 4 or 10 or above, the Pacers keep it. I've only seen one other trade like this, which was like in 2008 or 9, Kyle Lowry getting traded to Toronto. It was when he first went to Toronto, I think, from Houston, where it was sort of like protected in this way.
Yeah, it's a little bit later than that, but that was the protection. It ended up being the Steven Adams pick.
Okay, so Bontemps, you were all over this immediately. And your thoughts on this aspect of it?
Well, I mean, it's a fascinating situation because you've got the Pacers who, as MacMahon has hinted at several times this year, have a coach in Rick Carlisle who, I don't remember if he's their president or not, but he's obviously heavily involved in their leadership with their basketball operation with Kevin Pritchard and with Chad Buchanan, their longtime front office. And they have been very clearly trying to take advantage of this gap year and be as bad as possible and take advantage of what's a loaded draft. So they right now are sitting in 3rd place in the reverse lottery standings. As we're about to go through, there are a metric ton of teams that are going to be trying to lose every game possible over the next couple of months. So I find the Pacers situation right now to be fascinating because they have a very clear choice in front of them. One of those choices is to try to remain in the worst couple spots in the league and try to have roughly a 50% chance of either losing their pick at all at 5 or staying in the top 4 and getting Darren Peterson, AJ DeBanza, Cameron Boozer, Caleb Wilson, insert, the other stud in this draft.
Yeah, whoever they have as those top
whoever
4.
they want to get, right, with the 4th pick. The other option they have, which I think is a viable option, is to try to get to 10. Now, you sit here and say, well, the Pacers are in 3rd. How are they going to get to 10? Well, let me just tell you, there's a lot of god-awful teams. And there's a lot of god-awful teams that are going to be trying to lose every game. You've got the Wizards. You've got the Nets. You've got the Jazz. You've got the Pelicans who remain awful. You've got the Kings who are awful. You've got the Bulls who we're going to get to in a bit who now are going to try to lose. You've got the Mavericks. You've got the Grizzlies. You've got the Clippers themselves who aren't going to be very good. And that's before we see what happens with Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, the Clippers are not tanking, but they're not going to be flying.
They're not going to be good. So I think there's a real chance that if the Pacers decide to, they could get to 10. And the reason why getting to 10 matters is if they get to 10 in the lottery standings, they guarantee themselves of keeping their pick this year, one way or the other. And just last year, we saw the Mavericks go from 11-1 and get Cooper Flag. The year before, 2 years before, we saw the Hawks go from 10-1. And I'm not saying they're going to do that. I've asked a lot of people in the league about this the last couple hours, and some people think it makes sense to try to go to 10. Some people think it makes sense to stay at the top, but I don't think it's a certain answer either way. And it's why this is fascinating, because typically you wouldn't have a chance to get from 3 to 10. But if they just try to win with Zubac and Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, I think they'll get to 10 because there's going to be wins to be had over the next couple of months.
I just think that is short-sighted, silly way to go about things. I can't imagine they'd take that route, especially they played the Jazz the other night. They had a hard-fought, and I mean they fought to lose, a hard-fought loss in a game in which they started Jarris Walker, Jay Huff, Ben Shepherd, Cam Jones, and Johnny Furphy.
Two things. One, that's before they made this trade. And two, what you're saying is fair, but let me ask you a question. Why is the pick protected at 10 and beyond? Why would you bother? Why would you bother to pick? Because you could just say...
Why would they do that?
Why would they do that? Because again,
did the Pacers
if you want
or the Clippers insist on that protection? 1 through 4 is obviously the Pacers. Did the Clippers insist on the 10 protection? I don't know.
By the way, if it doesn't, did we say this? If it doesn't convey, if it's not 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, it
becomes a 2031 first, unprotected.
But look, man, it would be so short-sighted, and I just can't imagine they would do this if you're the Pacers. You're over halfway through being awful, an awful season in a gap year without Tyrese Halliburton. You have the exact number. If you're a bottom 3 team, you've got a 52.1% chance of being top 4.
Let me go over the percentages real quick here. So right now, let's say the lottery was today, and they're third worst record. 52% chance of being top 4, a.k.a. keeping their pick. 48%. So it's slightly better than a coin toss to keep their pick.
Correct.
If they were to fall to 10th, okay, they would have an 11% chance of getting into the top 4 and a 100% chance of keeping their pick.
And also, just the other part of this is, and like, I understand your position, MacMahon. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer, but to your point, I would love to know who put this backstop in on the 10th pick. Was it the Pacers or was it the Clippers? Because that's an interesting thing to know, to your point. And the other part of it to me is, if you're the Pacers and you have this team that's trying to win now, like you've got Pascal Siakam, you've got Ivica Zubac, you've got Tyrese, like they're trying to win next year. Would you rather give up the pick this year in theory, or would you rather would you rather guarantee yourself getting one more high level player to go with this group for the next few years and have them part of this team?
The short answer, and it's not a direct answer, but the short answer is I would rather do everything possible to take advantage of an unfortunate situation where you have a chance to add a bona fide star alongside Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, and now Ivica Zubac. Now, I will say this. As you said, it was well known that the Pacers were in the hunt for pre-agency big man, right? You mentioned Gafford. They had extended conversations with the Utah Jazz about Walker Kessler, and that would have been a classic, like, the flip type of move. Kessler's out the rest of the season. They did offer, my understanding is they did offer multiple picks for Kessler. It was not this, the picks weren't this sweet.
Imagine the Jazz giving up the half of their pick is top 8 protected. Imagine the Jazz saying 4 through 8, we get it. 8 through 9 through 30.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what the picks were. I don't even know exactly how firm of an offer there was or wasn't. My understanding is it wasn't this exact pick. It wasn't quite this attractive, but it does reinforce the Jazz's desire to keep Walker Kessler, despite the fact that they are far, far, far apart on what they perceive his value to be on his next deal. Also, the other thing is Zubac is under contract, a favorable contract, and Kessler wants to get paid big this summer.
Which is why I would guess that this same deal was not on the table for Walker Kessler, because I would assume Pacers would not be as comfortable with paying Walker Kessler the number it might take to get him, whereas they know they're going to be able to afford getting Ivica Zubac on this deal, which is why I would guess it wasn't the exact same offer, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it was not.
You need a scorecard to keep track of the lottery, and we're going to give it to you real quick here. So, okay, the number 1 pick right now is Sacramento. They've lost 10 straight games. They have
and they're playing their young guys in crunch time to develop them.
Good decision. All right, number 2 right now is New Orleans, which pick goes to Atlanta via pick swap. So
certainly not tanking. Just they stink.
Unprotected pick swap. So that's okay. So you know that.
No, unprotected pick.
Unprotected pick.
Right. The better of them
I'm sorry.
or
I
the
apologize.
Bucks, and the Bucks get the other one.
I apologize. Unprotected pick. Number 3, Indiana. And we just went over it. 1 through 4, it's theirs. 5 through 9, it's Clippers. 10 or above, it's theirs. Number 4, Brooklyn. Nice and clean with the asterisks. It was originally traded to Indiana or to Houston. They got it back, but now it's clean. Brooklyn gets to pick no matter where they are. Number 5, I should say tied for number 4, Washington, who just traded for Anthony Davis and recently traded for Trae Young. Washington, currently with 13 wins and tied for 4th, their pick is top 8 protected. If it falls 9 or higher, it goes to the Knicks. Which is why I wonder if we're going to see Anthony Davis play in red, white, and blue this year.
What about D'Angelo Russell, another former All-Star they just traded for?
Correct. Do you believe D'Angelo Russell will be picking up that $6 million player option?
The Mavericks certainly did. That's why he was in the deal.
All right. 6th, Utah. As we've heard, 16 wins, 3 games ahead, back ahead of Washington, depends on you look. Utah's picked top 8 protected. Otherwise, it goes to the Thunder if it's 9 or above. We've talked about that a lot. 7, Dallas. 19 wins, 3 games back of Utah. They're trying to go up. They're trying to climb. I don't know how aggressive they're going to be, MacMahon. It is their pick cleanly.
And as we've gone over many times, the only pick that they have of their own clean until 2031.
Number 8, with 20 wins, Memphis, who has traded 2 of their 3 best players in the last, 7 months, including Jaren Jackson this week.
And fought off some serious intrigue about Ja.
Number 9, Milwaukee. 20 wins, tied with Memphis. Actually, I guess they're tied for 8th. We will see what happens with Giannis now, because one of the things that was reporting that came out out of Milwaukee today when Giannis wasn't traded was that he'd like to play. The other day, Doc Rivers was on countdown before our game on Sunday. I asked him, and he said Giannis is going to play.
Hey, you know what? I just heard celebration in Memphis. I just heard celebration in Dallas. I just heard celebration out of Salt Lake City. That sounds like a great plan for those teams.
They can't wait. They're 4 and 5. I think they won Wednesday, so I think they're 5 and 14 without him, and they're 500 when he plays. Okay, 11th, and 10th, I should say. Point out, unfortunately for Portland, who was on a nice winning streak, they've lost 6 games in a row. They came out east and they've gotten knocked back to earth. They are in 10th. Their pick, by the way, is lottery protected to the Bulls. Right now, it wouldn't be conveying. So, just thought, as we're talking about the Bulls a little later, in this misery over the last few weeks, that pick has gone from, maybe conveying to the Bulls to not conveying, but you should keep an eye on it. All right. Charlotte, they've won 7 in a row. They're on their way up. Traded for Kobe White. They seem to be trying to at least make the play-in, so maybe it's not an issue, but
I think they're a playoff team this year.
Okay, well, their pick is free and clear. They own it, haven't traded it. Congrats to them. 12th pick, LA Clippers.
Ooh, boy. No, wait, who's that going to?
Okay, well, 23 wins right now, okay? And that is tied for 12. Okay, Portland, Charlotte, and the Clippers all have 23 wins. And if the Clippers finish the worst out of those, they'd be 9th and have a
10th.
They'd be 10th. They'd have an 11% chance of going to the top 4. If Portland or if Milwaukee gets Giannis back and starts to play 500 basketball again, it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could see the Clippers, if they don't continue to win, which I would say is going to be hard, they're going to potentially hand a top 10 pick over to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Ooh.
Chicago at 13. Chicago's got a chance at 2 picks up here, but this pick is clean and clear, and they have it.
Well, and they finally, after all these years of
we will get there in
39.
Literally 1 minute.
Oh, go.
14th pick right now is the Atlanta Hawks, which goes unprotected to the Spurs. So as of right now, and we'll see what happens with Atlanta, but as of right now, if the lottery was tonight, the Thunder would have a 7% chance of being in the top 4. The Spurs would have a 2% chance of being in the top 4. And goodness knows where that Clippers pick might be in a couple of months. Okay. So just keep in mind, if you can, all of that shenanigans and how much things are going to be fascinating, especially on lottery night themselves.
And so many tanking teams as buyers before the trade deadline was a wild twist, but go on.
By the way, I've had some people give me some ideas for what I'm calling the flip, which is what Utah, Brooklyn, and Washington are trying to do. Maybe Dallas to a certain extent too. They'll bring back Kyrie, but get as low of as good of a pick as possible, but also prepare to immediately get better.
Dallas for sure is trying to, yeah.
Yes, our friend at ESPN Radio, he does his morning show on ESPN, Evan Cohen. He is calling this the trade ahead line for like Washington and Utah making trade aheads. It's not bad, but I need to the concept of trying to go from a lottery team that's tanking to a team that could make the playoffs. I just came up with one.
How about sit and soar?
No, I like the flip.
And then you soar up the standings.
I don't like the flip, but I'm going with it. All right.
Okay. Well, then you asked for suggestions.
I don't even know how many trades the Chicago Bulls...
You can sit and do something else.
Right. I don't even know how many trades the Chicago Bulls made in the last 3 days. I know that they acquired 9 second-round picks, and then at one point they had 10 guards on their roster. They ended up acquiring 2 sort of undersized big men, Nick Richards and Gerson Yabusele. But the Bulls are what? I actually don't know what the Bulls are doing. Tim Bontemps, can you explain to me what the Bulls just did at the trade deadline?
No. I am so Arturas Karnisovas had a presser today and for the second year in a row at the trade deadline said, we don't want to be in the middle. This guy 5 years ago said, yeah, you don't want to be aiming for 10th place in the standings. That's not what you're trying to do. He then traded for Nick Vucevic, has spent the last 5 years sitting in the play-in tournament, literally in the middle of the standings, outside of the glorious 6 weeks where the Lonzo Ball team played above its head and had a pretty good record in the East and then plummeted and won 1 playoff game in the first round. It is embarrassing, the situation that the Chicago Bulls are in. 18 months ago, they had Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu on their roster on cheap deals, good players on cheap deals, the kind of players that can get you maybe multiple first-round picks, at least 1 first-round pick, real players, real assets that you can build around going forward and maybe not be in the middle. What did the Bulls do? They didn't trade them. They kept them on their roster until the very end of their contracts before the trade deadline. And what did they trade them for? A handful of second-round picks, when second-round picks have never been less useful in the entire history of the NBA. And the Bulls traded for a bushel full of picks and have a team that makes no sense to, in theory, start to lose now when they're 10th place in the Eastern Conference and probably can't get higher than 10th place in the lottery. And now Arturas is getting up here saying, oh, we have a plan. We're sick of being in the middle. We want to actually try to build something. You don't want to build anything. There's no plan. There's no plan for anything at all. This is absolutely unbelievable. Nikola Vucevic has been on the roster for 5 years, got this insane extension 3 years ago. And the whole time, the team has been on a treadmill to nowhere. The whole time. It's absolutely unbelievable. The Bulls, by the way, were in position to make the trade the Atlanta Hawks did and get this pick that might be the number 1 pick in the draft. Did the Bulls make that trade? No. I'd love to hear from Arturas why the hell they didn't make that trade. Where was the plan then?
They drafted 1 spot ahead of Atlanta when they
sure did. And they drafted Noah Senge, who might be a good player, but hurt his shoulder earlier this year. He's out for the season. The idea that this team has some grand plan to get out of the position they're in is lunacy to me. And it's unbelievable that they've chosen now as the time to make all these trades. By the way, they had all these expiring contracts. They could have taken on money for assets. They didn't even do that. They just swapped out expiring contracts for expiring contracts the last couple of days. The one guy they took on was Rob Dillingham, who, speaking of Minnesota, yes, Minnesota got Ayo Dosunmu for 4 seconds. they could have maybe had Iadasumo and Kobe White for the price that the Bulls did it for at the rate things are going. So it's just insane that we're sitting here with Arturas at this point in the cycle, and we're having I just literally went and looked it up a year ago. I looked up Jamal's story from February 6th a year ago after they moved on from Zach LaVine. There's more to come. We're committed to being a sustainable, competitive team. We're not okay with being in the middle. Curating a team that competes at the high level and can compete for a championship has been our goal. Today, what did Arturas say? We're, quote, not satisfied with being in the middle. Quote, being in the middle is not what we want to do. We've seen that for the past 4 years, and we want to change that. I mean, what are we doing here?
Relax,
what are we doing?
dude. Hey, I'm looking at the ESPN standings. We have them in 3 little sections for each conference. There's the top 6 in a line. There's play-in in a line, and then there's the bottom 5. And I do think the Bulls are going to be able to get out of the middle. I think they're going to just swap spots there. Charlotte's going to zoom right past them. They'll be right there in 11th place. So they're getting out of the middle.
They sure are.
I think one of my favorite moments of the last few days in the Bulls. So they traded for Anthony Simons, guard. They traded for Colin Sexton, another combo guard. Traded for Jaden Ivey, combo guard. Traded for Rob Dillingham, point guard.
Combo guard, just a tiny
combo
one.
Guard. It's my favorite. And then they signed MacMahon to a 2-way contract.
At least the layup lines are going to be cool.
No question about that.
Get there for layup lines. That's the most entertaining part of the game.
MacMahon is like having a really good season. He's not dunking in the dunk contest. I mean, he's obviously a tremendous dunker, but whatever. Congrats to him for his 11 dunk contest titles. MacMahon, he's like averaging like 28 points or something for the Windy City Bulls. He finally gets the call. Mac, get on the Kennedy, come down to United Center. You are getting that 2-way contract. He's like, God, this is going to be great. He's riding down there his phone. He's 9th or 10th on the depth chart.
No, he's not. He's starting at power forward. It sounds like to me. Hey,
it's just insane.
Listen, we can hammer away at the Bulls' buffoonery, but that's an evergreen topic. Did they do any 3-way trades out in the last day or two? Because I'll say they do always finish just a spot ahead of SAC when they do the 3-way trades with the Kings. But anyways, we went straight into Tankathon, and there's a lot of meat there. But Wendy, we zipped right past a fascinating predicament situation that the Clippers are in. Like the Clippers, and I credit their front office for saying, you know what? Yes, we owe our pick this year and an unprotected swap next year, both to the Oklahoma City Thunder. But that's a sunken cost. And basically, they made moves that are making them worse right away. But clearly they think there's going to be long-term benefit, whether they give up the first pick or the 12th pick, the trade's done. But what does all this maneuvering mean for the guy who everything has revolved around with the Clippers for the last several years? Kawhi Leonard this summer is going to be going into the last year of his deal with a $50 million salary with a roster that's been kind of stripped down around. I mean, not kind of. Like, Paul George has been gone. James Harden, gone. Zubac, their next best player, gone. What are we thinking there?
Well, that certainly was something that my phone was asking from league folks when they did the Zubac trade. Would they entertain trading Kawhi Leonard? Now, that's a very complicated trade, and since they basically just decided to trade Harden and Zubac in the last few days, I can see why we didn't see any of that. But he's having a very good year, and as you said, has 1 year left. If their goal is to truly acquire as many assets as they can, I think, because especially his contract is short, that you wouldn't be taking. I think it's something that teams will consider as the summer approaches.
Yeah, I would be curious to see what kind of market there would be. Honestly, I'd be a little bit surprised if they don't at least get a feel for that. They've never considered a Kawhi trade before. Obviously, they got him, and he's been the silent face of that franchise since he arrived. Everything's revolved around him. But I would also say the Clippers front office has a pretty extensive track record of making emotionless decisions when the time comes.
Well, and I've done some preliminary just asking of people like, hey, would you have interest in Kawhi? And it's always been met with some trepidation about like what that would look like and what his interest level would be in being outside of Los Angeles. And look, the other thing we haven't talked about with the Clippers that we have to mention is the sort of Damocles that's hanging over the franchise's head with this investigation into potential salary cap circumvention and the possibility.
What that's hanging over their head?
Just relax. It just means that they have the potential to get in trouble in the coming weeks. And what is that punishment potentially going to look like? Some guy named Dan
Cleese.
I've never heard that word before. Damocles?
St. Bonaventure. He took mythology.
Goodness.
You didn't learn about it in North Texas. I'll send you some literature. The Clippers have to the subject of the Clippers potentially facing ramifications from that investigation is hanging over the whole franchise at the moment. And when this last came up with the Joe Smith situation 25 years ago, there were suspensions for the owner and the lead executive, and there were 5 first-round picks lost. So if something is found in this investigation, what's the punishment going to be? Like that hangs over all this stuff that's going on with the team.
I don't know what's going to happen. I will just say that, and I'm not even sure that the Joe Smith thing 25 years ago is something that will be referred. I know it's the easy default because it's the only, comparable thing. Joe Smith's contract was nullified, but he wasn't punished. I mean, his contract was nullified, but he wasn't suspended. I'm not saying that I don't know what's going on in this investigation. I'm just saying, just for the record.
Well, I wasn't even saying Kawhi was getting in trouble per se, but I just meant with the picks and everything else.
Well, that's the other thing.
No one knows what it's going to be if anything happens.
If the Clippers get caught and found guilty, if they indeed find incriminating evidence, and they punish them with draft picks, would they take the picks that they own from another team?
What if they lose the 5th pick in the draft this year?
Well, what if they only take their picks and they don't take picks that were acquired from another team?
Yeah, and if they only take their picks, then it's going to be a while before the Clippers could even benefit from being bad. And they're still in a situation where, while obviously they made, especially the Zubac trade, like the Harden trade, okay, he didn't request a trade, whatever. Obviously, there was some pressure there. So they did what they had to do there and got a recent All-Star guard in return, whatever. But the Zubac trade is something that makes them significantly worse right now, despite the fact that they owe their pick and they're in a swap next year. But at the same time, if they had their own pick, then I think you would say, hey, of course they should try to trade Kawhi this summer. Of course they should try to get some value, and part of the value would be bottoming out and benefiting from their own pick. But they're not in that situation. And after they get done paying off OKC, they've got to pay off Philly, right? They go a pick and a swap to Philly in 28 and 29. So it's still going to be, a traditional rebuild is not an option for the Clippers for a while.
All right. Well, to be continued. That whole trade was super fascinating. All right. So those are some trades that actually went down. We talk about some trades that didn't go down. So Giannis didn't get traded. The Bucks, we mentioned their draft scenario. I will wait and see what happened. Giannis is injured. He is he is not on the inactive list because of any reason. He's on the inactive list. He's on the injury list, really. And he's had multiple calf injuries over the last 2 seasons, I think 4. It is not unreasonable for the Bucks to protect him regardless of their...
If he plays again this season, multiple people should be fired on the spot. It'd be incredibly stupid.
Again, What if he says he wants to play?
If he plays a season, multiple people should be fired on the spot.
I would just say that I know that Giannis announced that he was out 4 to 6 weeks. Doc Rivers said there was no timetable, and the Bucks did not put out a formal injury report. They just put him as on the injury list.
Look, what needs to happen is the Bucks need to sit down with Giannis and say the following. Look, you and we have the same goals here in that you have said publicly you want to be here if we have a championship level team. The best chance for us to potentially have a championship level team with you on the team is to maximize our draft pick in this year's draft, which could be as high as the second pick in a loaded draft. You have had 4 lower leg injuries in the past 18 months. You just played through one a month ago. We understand you want to play. The season is not going anywhere. You need to prioritize your health for the next 2 months and get yourself healthy and ready for next season. And we need to prioritize seeing our younger players and trying to maximize this draft pick. And then we can sit down in the summer and look at the situation and have a real discussion about whether you really want to be here, whether you really want to be elsewhere, and what the best situation is for everybody involved. But what's unquestionably true is the best situation for everybody involved is for you to get healthy and for us to get our draft pick as healthy as it can be. That's the conversation that has to happen.
I think they should just record that and just play it for him.
I mean, that's what has to happen.
Only bad things can come out of Giannis returning this year. Either they screw up their lottery positioning or he suffers an injury that's going to damage his value. But nothing good can come out of it.
But he will be fulfilled playing basketball. That's a good thing.
Cool. Well, I tell you what, kissing Giannis's butt over the last several years sure has put him in a great spot.
All right. Another trade that did not happen was Morant. There was some rumors out there about what it was going to take. And really, I just think right now, Morant's value is just incredibly low. And I'm not so sure it was, well, I'm not going to make a speculation.
It's negative. It just is.
And what do you mean by negative? What does that mean?
What I mean by negative is I believe the Grizzlies would have to attach an asset to him. They'd have to attach at least a pick to him. Trae Young's value was neutral, expirings. We went in the season, early in the season, the discussion, there's the 3 guards, right? It was Trae, who ended up getting traded for expiring and whatever you want to call Kispert, okay young player. There was Ja, who they could not generate any sort of a market for. And I don't know that teams told the Grizzlies we'll be interested if you attach a pick. I just know, I talked to a team that they were linked to, and they said they'd have to attach assets for us to even think about it.
I heard that as well.
LaMelo's the other one, and to LaMelo's credit, LaMelo is playing very good basketball, and at this point, I don't even think it's about restoring his trade value. But I think it's more about, hey, Charlotte's got something good going on, and there's no reason to be looking to move on from him at this point. That's a credit to him, and it's a credit to Charles Lee and the group that got in Charlotte. But for Ja, the party in Memphis is over. Ja is like the last guest, and he just doesn't have a ride out of there. But for either he's going to be sleeping on your couch, or you got to get him a ride, and they didn't get him a ride. So he's going to be on your couch farting and burping for a while.
Sounds like MacMahon's junior year.
Which one?
Yeah, I don't know the way out of that. I think if Ja's contract was a year shorter, he's got 2 years and 87 on it. If his contract was a year shorter, I mean, the funny thing is, as I've been talking about Ja for the last couple of weeks, months, whatever, the analysts who are here at ESPN, who I work with, who just think very highly of Ja's game, guys like Iman Shumpert, Danny Green, Kendrick Perkins, they just are stunned that there's no value for Ja. Shump was when I said on TV, I didn't think he had much value. Shump was he couldn't believe it. He thought I was just talking about somebody else. And even Perk, understands, but he's just can't believe how far he's fallen, because he was a player that other players were just in awe of. And they respected his fearlessness.
Which is diminished, whether that's due to motivation or whether that's due to, he's alluded several times to, he gets hurt a lot when he attacks and the refs aren't protecting him. But he's not available a lot for a wide variety of reasons. He gets hurt a lot and he does stuff off the court from time to time that means he can't play. And that there's a lot of baggage and a lot of risk.
This year he got suspended for, being out with his coach.
One of the questions about Ja around the league was, is his athleticism declining? Because, you look at all like the rim attacking numbers and all that stuff, they've just plummeted. Or, was he kind of quiet? Had he quiet quit on? Was he just a lack of motivation? I will say the 2 games he played before he got hurt again, he came back in London. He looked pretty athletic in that one. Played, I don't remember who they were playing, played the next game in Memphis and had like 2 or 3 ridiculous chase down blocks, one of which he hurt his elbow on. He's still that sort of athlete. Like that question's been answered. But again, it's blink and you might miss it because he's out again.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is the guy is a small guard who can't shoot and doesn't guard anyone. And the way the league is gone, that is a hard archetype to square. And you factor in everything else on top of it. And yeah, it's not a surprise there's not a lot of value in him around the league. Like there was a lot of talk about Miami having interest. I don't think Miami really had any interest. I don't think there was any interest. I mean, I'll just go to Shams' tweet. There were no, what do you say, serious offers? There were no formal offers.
There was a lot of intrigue about his talent.
Let me read the actual tweet. The actual
his
tweet
talent's
was
intriguing.
Ja Morant remained with the Grizzlies past today's trade deadline. Multiple teams were intrigued by Morant's talent, but none were willing to make a serious offer, sources said. We spent the last month going, who are the Ja teams? And it was like, maybe Sacramento will do it to save some money. Like there wasn't really anybody.
And look, this was not a lack of effort on the Grizzlies' part, on Zach Kleiman's part. And he got a great price for Desmond Bane. Boom. Did it. He got a great price for Jaren Jackson Jr. Boom. Did it. He tried to get a great price for Ja, and I believe at the end he would have taken a bag of peanuts for him. But there's not a taker.
So now come on back, Ja. Everything's good.
Well,
Look, the answer is he rebuilds his value by being great. I know
that's what you said before, MacMahon. It's LaMelo Ball. Like, there's a path to him looking like a good NBA player again, which, look, a year ago, I thought at the beginning of the season, LaMelo was the guy who would take the chance out of those 3 guys for a variety of reasons. But there were plenty of people around the league who were like, I don't want to deal with LaMelo Ball. I don't want to have him. I don't think he's that good. And
I kept hearing not a serious player, so unserious.
Whatever the reason, right? His value was low. And he's played really well. The Hornets have played really well. And he has a much different standing, even if it's not like, he's not like become prime Derrick Rose in the eyes of people in the league, but like he has played really well, has driven winning, and his standing in the league is much better as a result of that. And if Ja Morant locks in and plays well for the Grizzlies for some period of time, his value will change. If it remains what it's been with him going in and out of the lineup and getting hurt and all the stuff that's gone on, then it will stay the same. And at some point, it will just be a matter of when this partnership comes to an end.
Yeah, and there's other complications. Number one, you don't want him to play well for the rest of the season because you are trying to tank for the rest of the season to get another star who can replace him as the face of the franchise. Because I like Cedric Howard. He's not a face of the franchise. I like Zach Edey. He's not a face of the franchise. And there's, obvious major durability issues there. So Ja taking a while to make sure this elbow gets right makes sense for the Grizzlies. And then the other thing, they smooched Ja's behind for years, and we've talked about all that. But then when you go from just, hey, how can we support you, and like making excuses and enabling and all that stuff for years, and then you try to come down hard and discipline, and he knows you don't want him. He knows you tried to dump him. There's already friction with the coach. Like the relationships with the front office clearly are complicated to say the least. He's going to, if he's still on that roster next season, it's going to be a very difficult situation if he can't just swallow his pride and be a pro, be as professional as possible with the intent of getting the hell out of there as soon as possible. Because the only way he can get out of there ASAP is to be a pro and to be productive.
Oh, Minnesota. Okay, fair enough. Because the other day when Minnesota dumped salary, we was like, what are they going to do, especially at the guard position? They take Io in there. They use 4 second-round picks as the freight. Io is having a very good year for the Bulls. He's averaging 15 points, which I think is a career high. He's shooting 45% from 3. And, he does fit somewhat next to Ant. I mean, the player that they had in that role was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who they just sort of drew the line on their spending with what they owe the rest of their roster.
They chose Naz Reid over him, and I've had people around the league suggest to me that in hindsight was a poor choice.
Well, they've now paid. They're now going to have to pay to keep him. Now, Io is extension eligible, I believe. Can he sign now? I think he might be able to sign now. But I think Bobby said that. But he's unrestricted. That's one of the reasons why the Bulls traded him.
Yeah, and in a vacuum, getting 4 seconds for Io for the Bulls as an expiring deal was good business. But it's, it just goes to the rest of it. We're like, where was this 2 years ago when you could have really reset this thing and actually rebuilt? But look, I get what Minnesota did here to a degree. I would still say that they just saved a ton of money on Mike Conley, and they could have used that salary slot to get something else that helped them too. And yes, they're going to get Mike Conley back, but okay, you saved a bunch of money and did this first-round pick swap to get rid of Mike Conley to bring him back. And then you give up 4 seconds when you don't have a lot of assets in general to get Io. And are they going to pay Io to stay on the team when they're already bumping up against the luxury tax line with 8 players? I don't know. Maybe.
The other thing that they did was they dumped Rob Dillingham, which Tim Connolly has done a phenomenal job in Minnesota. He did a great job in Denver. He's a great executive. The Rob Dillingham decision that they made to jump into the lottery to give up, help me out, was it a 2030 pick and a 2031 swap? I think the swap's top one protected, the pick's unprotected to San Antonio. That was a major swing and a massive whiff. Dillingham was a complete bust for them. I mean, averaged 4 points and 2 assists per game and fell out of the rotation. And it's not just that it's one thing to bust on your own pick. It's another thing to bust when you give up the future draft capital they did, which is the future draft capital they had, and knowing that's your big swing. And then, look, he's tried to get creative. He made a big play for Kevin Durant. Hard to do that when you don't have draft capital. Same thing with Giannis this year. I'm not saying if you have that, the pick there, the Spurs and the swap, I'm not saying that they would have KD or that they'd have Giannis, but you at least they don't really have chances to make that kind of. Clearly, they need a co-star alongside Ant. They don't have the ammo to do that, in large part because they took the big swing on Rob Dillingham. That was just a massive whiff.
The Wolves are in a spot where how they finish the season is going to have significant consequences on what the team's going to look like next year. So they were under the gun a little bit here to make a deal to acquire some help. They did. So, by the way, Mike Conley already did his buyout. He's free. And we'll see where he ends up. I wish I could tell you where he's going.
He's gonna end up back in Minnesota. I mean, because he got traded twice, he can re-sign with the Wolves, and I'll be very surprised if Mike Conley's not back in Minnesota.
Well, I also, having talked to Conley after the last time he was traded in Minnesota, family guy does not enjoy the mid-season relocation.
Yeah, it makes a lot of it. The way it was sequenced out, it makes a lot of sense for him to go back there. And look, I do like Io in a vacuum for the Wolves. I do.
was another guard the Bulls traded for briefly, by the way. We
Conley.
Yes.
we didn't count that one, but
Yes. And Iowa will help them. I think, though, it goes back to the same question. We've seen the Wolves shed a lot of money over the past couple of weeks or a couple of days, I should say. And are they going to really pay the number to get Io re-signed this summer? I think that's an open question. And if they don't, they're going to be that much more hamstrung with how to build out their roster.
By the way, this is a loophole that's being exploited that I don't think has been exploited before. We had a rash in the 2000s of players getting traded and getting bought out and returning to their teams. And so the league put a stop to it. It said if you got traded, you couldn't re-sign with your team for a year. But if you get traded again, then you could. I mean, we're not talking about a guy who's going to, be a massive difference maker. No offense to Mike. He's a great guy. But it's kind of a loophole they're jumping through there. I just thought I would,
Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, it's a little quirk. I don't think, so many guys are going to get traded twice like that. But
unfortunately, it's probably not going to, might be a guy toward the end of his career. And under those circumstances.
So the Knicks made what I thought was an interesting move today, and then there's sort of the other end of it. You reported on this, Bontemps, live on television. They picked up a guard who was a very big fan favorite, but they had a setback as well.
Yeah, got Jose Alvarado, New York native from the Pelicans, and then on top of it, Deuce McBride is a key reserve off the bench for them. Is going to miss some time with a core muscle injury. Unclear when he'll be back. Probably going to miss a good chunk of time. Made a little more sense. I mean, they've had interest in Jose for a while, but it made a little more sense why they wound up giving up a couple seconds to get him in the deal today, given they're not going to be without Deuce for a while. I will be interested to see if when Deuce gets back, Alvarado plays over Tyler Kolek, who has had a nice emerges this year as a second-year guard, and frankly, I think might be better than Jose. But it'll be a fun story having him back in New York, and I do think, his ability to push the tempo, to play, press full court, kind of get some steals, get the crowd revved up. Like I do think for the next
classic
couple
energy player.
Yes, I do think for the next couple of months, especially with Deuce injured, he will be a boost. But and he also replaced Gershon Yabusele in the rotation, another guy who wound up in Chicago. Interestingly, I believe is turning down his player option for next season to get a chance to play and to have a shot to play with the Bulls. And I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll end up going back to Europe if he doesn't have something in the NBA next season. But yeah, for a Knicks team that was looking to do something with Yabusele for a while, turn him into Alvarado overall makes sense for where the Knicks are at.
The Knicks feel pretty good about where they are, especially with the 8-game win streak, and they had a high energy victory at the Garden over the Nuggets on Wednesday night. Playing some pretty good D. Jokic is not 100% right now, obviously, but still got to give credit where it's due. The Knicks played some good defense on him, and especially Mitch Robinson, who
he played 45 minutes and was pretty good in the game. So I think Jokic is going to be.
The thing about Jokic, he was 1 of 13 on 3-pointers, and that's a very Jokic thing to do because a lot of guys, when they got to be 1 of 10, would be like, but Jokic, he does not care.
He almost made a crazy shot. To win the game. Rimmed out a 3 that would have won it. But yeah, no, look, the Knicks have turned things around 8 in a row. They got a huge game Friday night in Detroit against the Pistons. Battle of the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference this season. Think it'll be the first game Kevin Huerter played for Detroit, so it'll be interesting to see his role there with the Pistons. But Knicks. A lot of talk about the Knicks over the last several weeks about where they're going to make a big splash, where they're going to get, be in the Giannis mix or whatever. And
were they going to trade Cat?
Right, which I only thought they were ever going to do in the Giannis trade.
Hey, how about Cat, has been accused of not being the toughest guy at times. How about Cat, got a huge gap. He banged heads with Spencer Jones from the Nuggets. By the way, won the fight. Spencer Jones got knocked out.
Yeah, I saw. I think Cat was hiding a little catch-up packet there.
Is that what you think? Because he tweeted out the photo of the gash on his Instagram. He wanted to make sure everybody knew. But it was ugly.
I am a tough dude.
It was ugly. But Spencer Jones got a concussion. Like,
no, Cat
they stopped the fight for him.
That's as much blood as I've seen in an NBA game in a little bit.
It was a nasty cut, but he gets stitched up, then comes back out, and then fouled out. But he had 24 and 12.
Listen, hey, of course he fouled out. He only had one eye, couldn't see that well.
I'm just saying, let it be known the Cat played through blood like he was Udonis Haslem.
He's had a good stretch lately.
We're just going to zip past Giannis, just like to be continued in the summer with more memes and, passive aggressiveness and disingenuousness. And
the only thing I will say about the Giannis thing is by now people have probably seen this video of
Wolf of Wall Street.
The tweet that Giannis put out, which if for some reason you didn't see it, I'll just read it for you. So Giannis put out this tweet that said, "Legends don't chase, they attract," with a 100 emoji and a sunglasses face emoji. And it was the "I'm not bleeping leaving" clip. And as somebody in the league said to me this afternoon, they said, well, it should be stated that in the movie, the guy left.
Oh.
It might be, Giannis probably is not aware of that, I would guess.
I haven't seen it. Now I gotta figure out time to watch it.
I'd love to watch that movie tonight.
It is worth pointing out that the guy does leave in the movie eventually. So,
hey, you know what? You know who else eventually left after a long, drawn-out saga that I'm really looking forward to discussing? Jonathan Kuminga. Free. It's like he escaped from Alcatraz. Jonathan Kuminga, boy. Oh my God. Do you think he paid his own airfare just to get out of there early and get to Atlanta?
Man, well, listen, I wish him the best of luck in Atlanta. I got to actually analyze what his role is going to be there. I haven't quite figured it out.
It should be said, too, it's worth pointing out that of the 10 best teams in the league by record, so the Thunder, Pistons, the Spurs, the Knicks, the Celtics, the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Wolves, the Lakers, and the Suns. Only one team, the Thunder, used a first-round pick to get better.
And they've got 1 million of them.
And I believe, Phoenix got out of the tax. Denver got out of the tax. Boston, after a lot of gymnastics, got out of the tax without ever giving up a first-round pick this year.
I will say this. The Mavericks getting off 100, I don't know, how much was it? 70 million? What was it, MacMahon?
Dude, it's like just next year, just between AD, Jaden Hardy, and D'Angelo Russell, it's $70 million. And literally, when you include their luxury tax bill, they about slashed their payroll in half.
All right, so that was good. But how about the Boston Celtics, who at one point had a $500 million on the books for this year, $500 million, $500 million in tax and salary, and got out of the tax and are in third place or second place. I don't even know where.
Without even giving up a pick. It's pretty impressive.
Is that right? They never give up a pick?
Not a first round. I think maybe a second, but no first round picks for sure.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive work.
Hey, the Mavericks got 2 first round picks, kind of, sort of.
You're right.
Well, I was just going to say, it's just an interesting trade deadline in that basically all the movement was by bad teams, and the teams at the top either ducked the tax. I mean, Minnesota got better with Io, but they also saved a bunch of money. The Lakers got Luke Kennard, he's a fine, bench player.
No, but the big buyers are the bad teams.
Yes, all the teams at the top are essentially the same. Again, Nick Vucevic, backup center.
The Cavs were the most aggressive contender, and it was because they've been the most underachieving.
Yeah, that's fair.
One of the most underachieving contenders. I guess the Clippers were an underachieving contender too, but they were selling, so it's not quite the same.
I mean, that's of the teams in the top 10, several of them got out of the tax and most of them didn't get better. It's just an interesting state of where this trade deadline was. It made kind of a weird week where all these bad teams stocked up on players who, are there for next season, not this season.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Thank you very much to Devon, Mark, Tucker, and our man Jackson, who announced that he'd rather go 0 of 30 than go 0 of 9, because if you went 0 of 9, that means you stop shooting.
I've played pickup basketball, Jackson. I can confirm that.
That is a Syracuse attitude if I've ever
Yeah.
I will also say real quick before we go, because I meant to say this before and I forgot. Sorry.
When he's tired.
I'm also tired.
You're by the way, your voice is, well, I was worried your voice wasn't going to hold out. You need to take the weekend.
That's my hope. But I just wanted to shout out Brian Keefe, the coach of the Wizards, who before tonight's game gave kudos to the Wizards beat writers from the Washington Post that have covered the team the past several years, because my former paper is run by feckless cowards, and they made some very bad decisions, in my opinion, this week, as in the opinion of many other people, to decimate the newsroom and in part dismantle the most legendary sports section in newspaper history, arguably at the Washington Post sports section, which I was very honored to be a member of for a short time. And I just thought that was cool of Brian Keefe to do that. And in a week where it's been pretty rough for people who were at the Post, either now or in the past, that was a nice little moment from him. And it would have been nice, I would say, for the Washington Post to have local sports coverage on Wednesday afternoon, when after a few hours after they say their sports department is irrelevant, the franchise trades for one of the 75 best players in the history of the sport. Might have been a good idea to cover that, but what do I know? I'm just a guy.
MacMahon, I wasn't good enough to get hired at the Washington Post like Bontemps.
No, but Cleveland plain dealer. I tell you what, Washington Post is great. Dallas Morning News, back when I was there, we used to win those APSC Triple Crowns just on an annual basis. So I'll give you the arguably the best.
DMN, the DMN was a hell of a hit track record too. I'll give you that.
MacMahon relitigating that. All right. Thank you to MacMahon. Thank you to Bontemps. Thank you for watching, listening to the Hoop Collective. We'll talk to you next week.
Adios, amigos.